So when you started this event, you did say I would get some answers even if I wasn't sitting in this chair, and that has happened, so I want to say thank you.
Yeah.
Can we talk about child loss?
You can talk about anything you want.
Okay. I've followed the law of attraction for years, and in 2014, my son passed away. So I kind of got off track a little bit because I thought, how could I create that? I also want to connect with him, so I know that the only way to do that is to get to his vibration rather than the vibration that this loss has caused.
Well, to get to your vibration, your true vibration.
Yes.
Because the only loss that exists in all of the universe, and it's not the easiest thing to hear when something like this has happened to you, but the only loss that exists is the loss of your own connection with all that is. And so we certainly get it, that you can stand in a place where your perception is that you've lost something, and that experience alone would cause you to focus in a way that would pinch you off. But the true loss is what's pinched off, not that. Feels like that's what's lost, but that's just the reason that you're losing your connection, and your connection is what you're feeling the loss of.
So how do I bridge that?
Well, first by trying to hear those words a little bit. The nice thing, and we know it's hard to hear that there could be anything nice about such a thing, but there are so many nice things about it. And the nice thing about someone you really care about making their transition, first of all, most people will do everything that they can think of to do before they will really work toward alignment. Most people will take an action approach first every time before they'll take a vibrational approach, because they trust their action world, even though it's sort of sucky, it's so mediocre and very little power in it. But most people will go there first because they understand the physics of moving stuff around and things like that. And so usually it doesn't require that kind of what you call loss in order to get your attention, but most every time that happens, it does cause a different focus, and in that different focus comes different understanding. And so the most wonderful thing about that is that your son cannot reproduce himself in order to fill the void for you. You've got to fill that void with something else, which requires that you just give up on the way that you would traditionally fill your voids and take another approach. And the good news is that when you take that other perspective and you do fill that void, it is so much more satisfying than you ever could have anticipated. Does that make sense?
It does.
So how do I accomplish that? Our first answer to you is you want it more than you've ever wanted anything, and you do. It's not just a desire to fill that void. It's a desire to return to your happy self. It's a desire for things to be whatever normal is a little bit again for you. It's a desire for the sun to shine in your heart. It's a desire for happiness, but it's also a powerful. We said it to our friend earlier. It's a desire for clarity. It's a desire for understanding. It is a desire for knowing, which is the reason that you guys cooked this whole scheme up to begin with. So it isn't that you negatively created. It's that somebody else gets to create their own reality, and you had an agreement that you'd be in on it and that it would benefit you, as from that perspective, you know everything does. Now, most of you who signed that disclaimer at the time that you made the decision to come into these physical bodies would like to retract it now that you're in your physical bodies. We understand that, but you can't take it back. It's a much bigger picture than you know. So we know that was a helpful basis. So now what? Anything more that you want to chew on a little bit around that?
No, I think that's good.
We will say to you that when Jerry made his transition, now it's a little bit of a different thing. Jerry had been around a long time. And when Jerry and Esther came together, he said, I might cut out on you early, because he was older than Esther. And she said, I don't care. And turned out she did. She wanted to take that back too. She cared a lot and suffered a lot. And the moment in time that it began to get a lot easier for Esther, almost suddenly, was when she finally heard us say, you have to stop looking for him where he was and look for him where he is, which takes the whole notion of loss out of the conversation altogether. And even though Esther had a basis of that because she's been playing with us for a long time. It still took some adapting because they were never apart, and so he was an integral part of about every thought that she had about everything. And so when she realized that he was still thinking about those things, that was really helpful to her. In fact, she's finding him to be really more efficient than ever. With excellent timing about things. So you want to talk any more about any of that, or are you feeling?
I think I'm okay.
Have fun with this. And 5 minutes ago, you couldn't have heard those words from us. Have fun with this. Have fun exploring the outrageous, delicious new aspects of your eternal relationship with this one. Esther has another friend whose significant other made her transition. And Esther talks with him occasionally. And he keeps wanting to say and wanting Esther to accept and wanting himself to accept something that is unacceptable. He keeps saying, I have to move on, which of course is acceptable, but I have to accept that she is gone. And Esther always goes, whoa, 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 whoa. And then Esther explains again. She's not gone. She's still not like that. But Esther so wants, because Esther knows that his recovery would be so quick if he could accept the existence, the presence, the interest, the playing, the co-creating that is still happening. And Esther knows for sure that his feeling of loss would go away altogether and be replaced by a feeling of such eternal co-creative excellence. But he has a belief that he's been dragging around, and a lot of humans around him wanting him to accept. You can't move on until you accept that she is gone. But you can't do that because they're still banging on your door. Where are all these thoughts and feelings coming from? What's this inspiration? How come I'm getting these blocks of thought? In other words, there's no gone. There's just eternal relationships that you can continue to foster all that you want. And there's plenty of humans that would say, oh, that's just crazy talk. But they're not talking much about the continuity of source. You know the way the majority of them talk about the continuity of source energy? There was this man. His name was Jesus. He came. He was here once. He did these things. Then he died. He died a terrible death. And he did it for you. And now you should feel bad for the rest of your life that he had to come there and suffer all of that for you. And that's the end of the story. And hardly ever did they say, and he's talking to you all day, and he's aware of you, and he cares about you, and he knows what you're doing. In other words, they've got it all wrong, especially that part. Yeah. Very good.